Well, hi everyone, Stu here again, wanting to encourage you. I pray that you're having another great day. It's such a beautiful day. It's days like this when I'm reminded how amazing it is to be alive, in the midst of all the challenges of life and living and the highs and lows. It's great to have those days where you just wake up grateful that the sun is shining, that you're healthy, that your loved ones are safe. And it's great in those days to remember the blessing of being alive and the blessings of God in your life. I know as I've grown in my walk with God, developing a sense of gratitude for my life has made a huge difference in the way I think about myself and the way I think about my life and about even the hard parts of life and the challenges of my own life, learning to be grateful. And I think for me at the moment, this time has been so perplexing and challenging. And I don't know for you, but for me, I've felt sometimes really exposed. The frailties of my life and my person. But then I've also, realized, my strengths have come to the fore in some things as well. And, the plans that God has, I had no idea 3 years ago when we embarked on a journey to improve the technology of our church and to target the missing generations and to believe that God was calling us to those things would turn into 3 years later such a tremendous blessing in the middle of a coronavirus outbreak when the church would normally rely on its older members to function. We as a church have been able to rely on our younger members to function, and they have just been a powerhouse during this time because they're less vulnerable and they're able to step into areas of technology that we've invested in that enable us to do what we're doing. And even for me, I've been on a journey of stretching through this whole time as well. Like as our technology's improved, I've had to grow into it as well and learn how to use it all. And I'm so grateful that I responded to that calling in my life. Because at the time it was a lot of hard work and a lot of stretching and a lot of growing, and still is. And I sit here today still learning and still growing in how to do this technology well. But you know what I'm super grateful for today is I deeply believe that the Holy Spirit has been guiding me and guiding us in this, and I'm blown away. I'm deeply, deeply moved by the lessons that the Holy Spirit has taught me during this time, about life, about myself, about my family, bringing my priorities back into a better balance, spending more time with my family. And, when I'm seeing you guys, when I'm bumping into you, whether it's at Coles or, whether, there's ministry, I'm on the phone with you, or whether I'm seeing you in Zoom meetings, or whether I'm doing a funeral for a loved one for you, when I'm seeing you, there's just this incredible fresh love in my heart for you. And I just am so grateful. I can't begin to find the right words to say how grateful I am to Jesus for this fresh love that I feel for you all as a pastor. And as a pastor, I can tell you that we're motivated by our love for our people, particularly in the hard moments. It's the love we have that really, really shapes us. But, sometimes that love can really run dry, not because we don't want to love, but because we get worn out. And during this pandemic time when love needed to be fivefold, the Holy Spirit just came and just poured love into my heart. And I've been watching love poured into the hearts of other members of the team as well. And it's just been amazing. I'm so grateful. But I actually wanted to share with you one of my favorite Proverbs, and I'm sure some of you will know it. I don't know how familiar you are with Proverbs, but if you've never really taken a look at it, it's gold. I remember when I first became a Christian as a young man at 18 years old, I remember being really drawn to the Proverbs, and I remember particularly the Proverbs of Solomon became like food, and for a young man who was new to the faith and had very little wisdom, suddenly I had the wisdom of God speaking to me, and it shaped my thinking. And here's a tip for you single fellas. Solomon's Psalms on finding a good wife. I think it's Psalm 31. I'll have to look it up before we finish. Or Proverb 30 or 31. In fact, why don't I do it now? Because I'm close to it. go. Yes, Proverbs 31. A capable wife who can find? She is far more precious than jewels. The heart of her husband trusts in her, and he will have no lack of gain. She does him good and not harm all the days of her life. And it goes on to talk about, contextually things that were important back then. But, a capable wife, she's far more precious than jewels. And the heart of her husband trusts in her, and he will have no lack. That was what I searched for in my wife, and I found it in Michelle. And what good advice that was, because it allowed me to look for the things that really mattered. Anyway, distraction. Sorry about that. I'm very blessed to have an amazing wife. I wanted to read to you Proverbs 27 and 17, and this is just a snippet out of it, and you would probably know it. Iron sharpens iron, and one person sharpens the wits of another. Anyone who tends a fig tree will eat its fruit, and anyone who takes care of a master will be honoured. I think I've got a heightened sense during this time that we need each other, and I think I have become much more deeply grateful for the people who have formed me and continue to form me as a man, as a pastor, as a father, and deeply grateful that they have sharpened me. And iron, I don't know if you ever sharpened a knife, but whether you've got a whetstone or you can sharpen on a piece of iron, and sparks can fly, and I think sometimes we mistake people that challenge us and people that cause us to self-reflect and sometimes causes angst. It's very tempting to want to cut them out of our lives, but sometimes those are the very people that God has put in our lives to sharpen us. And learning the distinction can be hard, because I know my natural instinct when people rub me the wrong way is to kind of put them in a safe space or isolate myself a little bit. But I've become increasingly aware that God may well just be speaking to me through those people that are very difficult in my life, and this idea that they may actually sharpen me. And certainly in my journey of the last 3 years, I seem to have come up against some very challenging people, and they've sharpened me. There's no doubt about it. They have changed me, and as long as some of those changes were incredibly painful. And if you asked me to go through them again, I'd say, please no. The reality is, I think I'm a better human being for them. And they have caused me to act more out of patience and listening than I would have before. And I'm more willing to. I've always had a heart to be gracious to people who are difficult in my life, but more than just graciousness now, I think a willingness to look for God in those challenges, because God does sometimes speak through the most unlikely people. Anyway, that's just my reflection for the day. And iron sharpens iron, and honouring the mentors of your life. And if you don't have mentors in your life, if you don't have people that you learn from and listen to, I think it's worth thinking about. I think all of us need to bounce off others, and I think all of us need people who we give permission to speak into our lives. I think unless we're growing, then we're not living. And I think to grow, you need other people to speak into your life. And some of them are people that are supportive and encouraging and behind you, and some of them are difficult and challenging and sometimes oppositional. But both can be used by God to speak into our lives. So for me, today I'm grateful. I'm grateful for the blessings of my life. I'm grateful for the Holy Spirit and the Holy Spirit's ministering to me. And I'm grateful for the people who speak into my life, and you know who you are. So thank you. Okay, God bless you all. Looking forward to Sunday. See ya.